come in from our storm that moved through Tippah County. Latest reports on this thunderstorm did produce some damage, including possibly power lines that were knocked down on US 72, 1.5 miles east of Walnut. So that was this circulation as it moved through a little bit ago, mile or so, mile and a half east of Walnut. When this storm initially came through there, a report that this did produce at least some power lines. We have had, as we heard from our Taylor Smith earlier on, some reports of power outages, and that's sporadic damage near Tiplerville, and of course that's probably the same circulation that now has moved there east of east of Walnut on US 72. So that storm now, that specific circulation, if we go to the wind mode here, that specific circulation is practically at US 45 up here on the Tennessee side. That's why we're disengaging from that. But you can see two other ones that are more pronounced and still in the WTVA 9 News viewing area right now. Now, these are not over the top. That's 30 miles an hour, and the other one is 21 miles per hour. So they are substantially weaker. Do I believe either of those is a tornado at this point? No. Do I believe they could develop into a tornado? I wouldn't rule it out considering the wind structure we have out there this afternoon and evening, but I definitely don't think they are at this moment here. Our meteorologist John DeLusick with a little more information coming in here from the newsroom behind the scenes. John, what is the information you have now?
Just got some information about there are power outages in the Walnut area right now on Main Street. Also reports of Highway 354 in that area of damage to some houses. So there is some report now of damage to some houses on Highway 354 in that Walnut area.
Okay, so give those both to me one more time here.
That is getting a power outage in the Walnut area itself, and then on top of that, that's on Main Street, first of all,
okay.
And also there are the damaged houses, the damaged houses from Sheriff's report from Highway 354 in that area. Again, all we're getting now is that there is some house damage.
Okay, so that is that circulation there that produced it, John. And those power outages, that makes sense considering that there are some power lines that were taken down according to some academic folks out studying this east of the Walnut area, so that makes sense that they would have some power outages. And as you heard earlier on, definitely watching around the Tiplerville area, and we did have at least a brief, I should be able to put it on your map here, a brief tornado touchdown west of the Faulkner area as well. Still working to gather information as to what damage that caused. They did get reports of some tree damage both there as well as that one probably tracked near the Tiplerville area as well. So there have been at least a couple of brief tornado touchdowns. Have had no reports of injuries, but when you hear reports that houses have been damaged, such as south and east of Walnut, that is a concern. New update to our warning here in sections of Alcorn County. The warning continues until 3:15. Weather Service Memphis watching a couple of, as they refer to, broad circulations over Alcorn County. Straight line winds they still see as the biggest impact, and that's something that we also want to mention. As these are trying to produce rotation, the wind coming around the backside of these sometimes can be 50, 60 miles per hour. And so regardless of whether that right there on north of the Tennessee state line or this one just north and west of the Gift community is actually producing a tornado, they are definitely producing some strong straight line wind gusts. John, does the National Weather Service have that report we got a second ago?
I will pass it on to them very
okay.
shortly.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Current time is 3:02 p.m. Meteorologist Matt Lopp on here alongside our meteorologist Alan Matthew and John DeLusick, our meteorologist Joel Young out in the field tracking as we wait for storms to gather more strength back to the west. Here's what we're going to do for some folks behind the scenes here. I think we're going to send this back to the regular programming for a little bit here, simply because the tornado threat imminently for our viewing area in Alcorn County has passed. Now we expect that it's possible, maybe likely, that as storms back for the west do move into our area over the next few hours, that there will be a potential that we could have a few more try to produce tornadoes. We'll have to watch that closely. We'll be here giving you the latest coverage as necessary. A reminder, we do continue our live stream at WTVA.com/live as well as in the WTVA weather and news apps. So we will be still doing that as soon as we drop off your television screen here. So WTVA News, weather app, WTVA.com/live. If you lose your signal, we are there. And of course, Facebook Live, we do have the ability for you to give us reports on that. But the cleanest way and best way to view that is, of course, in the apps. You can see it exactly as you see it here on our TV screen. So while a tornado warning does continue for northern Alcorn County, at this instant, we do not believe that that tornado, that thunderstorm is probably producing a tornado, and the most intense part of it is continuing to move now north of the Tennessee state line. So the threat for Corinth, you're all clear. The gift community, certainly if you live on the Alcorn County side here, I would love you to give me 5 minutes just in case the radar is a little off on its positioning there, but I think we're in pretty good shape. So we're watching things, more updates as necessary here. Keep it here for the best coverage. Okay, we're off. Okay, so reminder behind the scenes here, we are continuing live at WTVA.com/live for a tornado warning in effect for northern Alcorn County at this instant. A little west of Guys, Tennessee, just north of the Tennessee state line. National Weather Service in Memphis also noticing what we are. They're continuing to watch those rotations, and they're watching the one just north of the Tennessee state line. This is the reason, by the way, we dropped off a TV, because no one up here near the Guys community can actually watch us on TV, but you can on Facebook, you can on live stream, and so that's why we're continuing here north of Winnesoga there. That is rotation that is strengthening somewhat. This is not the same rotation that produced tornadoes earlier. It is a part of a cluster of storms that have kind of joined up into one that does have that potential. We need to make sure, John, that we are aggregating our reports. Does Weather Service Memphis have it? Yeah.
I'm in process. This thing was not, well.
Is it not? It's not
I'm
working?
getting in process.
Okay.
This right here, okay.
Okay. Gotcha. So you can see some of the times there on your screen as it continues to move north. I want to wind this out. There's a couple things I'm going to look at. Now that we're off air, I'm going to take a little, we're going to do an overview here for a moment. I need to make sure we are looking at and we understand the latest on how this is playing out. And so we'll go to, if you give me a moment here. First off, I want to put on the watches that we do have, the watches and warnings. We do have tornado watches encompassing every location in the WTVA 9 News viewing area, but there are different times. For the northern and western section of the area, that in effect until 5 p.m. So you'll note that's only 2 more hours. It's possible that an extension of that in time might be necessary for some folks here. The threat does continue for those locations. The north and east quadrant of the area, it's in effect until 9 p.m., and that includes locations such as Red Bay, Tupelo, Amory involved in that one, and into Alabama. And then for the southern half of the area, 9 p.m. as well, especially Golden Triangle, Louisville, Starkville, West Point, Columbus. 9 p.m. is that time frame for you. So let's go ahead and what I need to look at here behind the scenes, I need to look at moisture. We need to check instability. These things allow us to understand how healthy these thunderstorms are and will become. So as we do that, we do have a 66-degree dew point in Columbus, 59 Greenville, 61 Greenwood. Okay, here is my concern. You know these lethargic storms, that's the best way I can describe them. They're lethargic at the moment here, that we have back here. They're in this moisture we see the 61. But you'll notice, and there's a big gap here. It's one unfortunate thing about Mississippi. I love so many things about the state, and I got to tie my shoes, so excuse me for that. But an unfortunate thing about Mississippi is that we don't have a lot of these official reporting stations. They cost money, and we all know how money works. So we don't have a lot of places to sense exactly what's going on here. But somewhere in this zone between Greenwood and Columbus, that storm is going to hit that great amount of moisture, whether it's Calhoun, Chickasaw, Monroe County. And when it does, that's when that tornado potential becomes a much greater factor. So when we look at that extended track, understand that's what I'm thinking behind the scenes here. I don't want to call out a tornado warning before it's happened, or call this and say it's going to drop a tornado over said town an hour and a half from now. I'm very hesitant to do that on the air, and on the live stream, I feel a little more comfortable doing that. That's definitely a storm we're going to have to watch very closely, especially if that 66-degree dew point there is accurate. And looking, there are some less accurate reporting stations that we can draw in here, and they do show upper 60s for Houston and for Pontotoc. John, if you call the ASOS at the airport, can we verify the dew point on that? Okay. At 63, just to make sure that that is accurate there. But there is a more fuel that's sitting in this zone here that as that storm hits it, it's going to ramp up. Let's go to a couple other things here that I want to check out. Another way in which we look at instability, there's a few other things that go with this, is using one of our models here. And this is one that we've shown on the air. It's got some social media hype, maybe a little more than I'd hoped it would. But this does continue to show that the storms where the main line is, it has not done a great job with the storms ahead. And that's a complicating factor. because since it doesn't have an excellent job with the storms out here ahead, that means it thinks there's more fuel left for these to work off of. Nonetheless, you can see how it has tracked that rotation with that one storm. It's been underwhelming, thankfully, to this point. It's a wasp. It's almost wasp season here at the studio. Anyway, we're not going to worry about that until it gets back here in the line of sight again. Anyway, but what you can tell is these red tracks indicating rotation do continue eastward. One encouraging sign of this: these are most helpful and indicate the most significant situation when the lines connect hour to hour. Like that one there. Watch that track. I'll put my finger there for you. And it does connect a little bit. So that is that one we're watching, one of those we're watching back there. It definitely indicates that over the next few hours, these storms will continue to strengthen in intensity. I think that's assuming that the moisture is correct, which at this point, we're 50-50 on.
It is 63.
It is 63. Okay? That's a good sign. That's a good sign. So hopefully we can keep that moisture limited. Let's go ahead and address, again here, as we're trying to juggle quite a few things. And John, if you will go ahead and you might read us that update that Jackson sent here in a minute. I'm curious to see that. But Memphis has gone ahead and issued a new tornado warning for these thunderstorms on the north side of the Tennessee state line. The wind mode on those does show that they have strengthened a little more, so more of a likelihood that maybe these are trying to produce tornado. That is on the north side of the Tennessee state line. If you live in Alcorn County, though technically that tornado warning is still in effect for 4 more minutes, you're in good shape, as we mentioned when we went off the air just a little bit ago. The track, I'm going 50 on this, and there's some of those times on your screen there. Correction, Walnut. Hold on. Bobby, where's Bobby? I see that report. What is it? Correction, Walnut. Oh, that's a different one. Okay. Okay. Report channel. Okay. Okay, that's we're right. Okay, sorry. It's hard to like juggle some of these other things behind the scenes. Confirmation. Now, as the newsroom continues to kind of figure out what has happened up here in northern Tippett County, we at least had one tornado that has touched down, possibly a couple of circulations. I want to backtrack this. I want to figure out what happened here. So you had 2 circulations. That one produced a little debris. That one aloft that we were tracking. That one that looked like it was just outside. I want to see this because it looked like it was just outside of the. Oh, now that looks more like it. When we first looked at it, it looked like it was leading ahead, but our radar data might have been off a scan. Oh, that's a composite, only nearest radar. Yeah, it looked like it was just a little ahead, but it must have just updated as we went to it. Okay. Regardless, as we kind of, the reason I'm doing this, so you know what I'm doing, I'm trying to know what the atmosphere is capable of today. That helps us on the next potential tornado to understand what could happen. And so, at least some reports, that might have been straight line wind damage near Tiplerville. So we'll have to double check that. We did get the report of some damage in around the Tiplerville area. That might have been straight line wind damage as that storm was continuing to wrap back up. There's a little circulation there. It's not as pronounced as some of the other ones. Right now I would have made more of an argument that those are our 2 circulations. And this one might have been that one that caused more of the issues up there around the Walnut area. So we had probably, it's reasonable to assume we had 2 tornadoes touch down up here in Tippett County. These were probably 2 separate tornadoes. Which is always disheartening when a thunderstorm on a day like today can produce multiple tornadoes, but at the same time, or nearly the same time in different parts of it, but that's clearly what this storm looks like it was capable of. Our meteorologist John DeLusick with an update behind the scenes here. John?
We got a damage reported like from Dustin McKnight. He's on our Twitter. Right
Okay.
there, it looks like a utility pole snapped.
Okay,
This
so
is from the Walnut area.
Okay, so this is an example of one of the damage reports here from near Walnut.
Yep.
Of one of the power lines that was at least snapped and knocked down. At least it doesn't look like it was completely uprooted, and it does look like it's still connected, so hopefully that tells us a little bit about the strength of the tornado. And there's another picture here that John's going to bring up for us as well. And so this is also Dustin Knight. This is along 72. This is east of Walnut by about 1.5 miles. And so the number of these that are knocked over. Could have been straight line winds. I don't want to say for sure that it was a tornado at this point. They are all knocked the same direction. Winds don't necessarily twist, but they shift. And so it's not impossible that this was a tornado. That clearly we were tracking something we believed to be along those lines at that point. But at this point, I'm hesitant to say for sure that we believe that this was for sure a tornado. But definitely some of those damage reports, appreciate those. We'll keep those separate. We talked about that, John, on the tabs. We'll move those out separate in a tab. And we might even end up where we have all the Walnut and Tippa stuff just in one browser. And then we have all the, if there's something else in another browser. You get what I'm saying? Okay. We'll try that. Behind the scenes here, as we continue to kind of juggle some of what we're looking at, I'm looking at Twitter and Facebook and some things of that nature at this instant. Sun is bright and shining in Ecru there. Dark and twisty clouds. Luckily, I don't see any other reports of damage at this moment, and hopefully that is good. And all the Kossuth people hopefully were down there at down south at the state championship for the girls. So hopefully that was the case near there, but clearly it wasn't quite as bad there as was some other spots. Okay, let's go back to the precipitation mode on here as we just kind of juggle some things. We are a little more crude with the way we do this behind the scenes when we are not on the air. Okay, Joel is out and about, and we'll check his tweet there. And I'm going to retweet it, and I'll bring it up here in a second. Probably exact time again. Control Center. Give me a moment while we get our screen share on. Okay, we'll pull this up here for you. So Joel is out here watching as the storms come near the Tennessee state line. He is positioned down closer to Okolona. You might say, well, we just had tornadoes up in Tippa County. Why isn't he up there? Well, what he's monitoring is the potential at this instance, since that one was going to quickly cross into Tennessee, and obviously we've watched it, and we do have crews that are going to be out there to check out some of that damage. But the sun, out, at least partially out, that starts heating, and a combination of moisture and heating is what produces severe weather. And so that's the reason why he is monitoring this situation there. And so he is up there in case these storms there do hit that greater amount of moisture and you get a more volatile situation than what we were tracking here just a minute ago. Now this video coming in from Linda with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters. We mentioned her a little bit ago, one of our folks. Oops, let's see if we can widen that a little bit. This was looking off Farmington Road. This has been in Alcorn County. She's a trained spotter with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters. If you watch this, you can see some rotation on it. This is probably one of those secondary rotations that we had a little bit ago. Unfortunately, this is obscuring the view a little bit. Storm chasers always have to deal with a little bit of that. I'm going to see if this will allow me to jog this back and forth a little faster. It's not wanting me to do that. Let me close that, if you give me a minute here, and see if it's not going to let me do it that way either. Okay. Well, as you can tell, luckily not a confirmed tornado on that picture there out of those secondary rotations, but clearly, as we mentioned earlier, we did have confirmation out of the initial one. So we are in a lull right now where we are waiting for these next storms to move in. This section of the viewing area has had much less rainfall to this point. I'm going to make this a longer loop. We'll make it a 3-hour loop. We'll go back here, and you can see how we have fairly widespread rainfall around the area, but there's a corner here, Montgomery, Choctaw County, where there hasn't been quite as much. Well, you had that initial batch that kind of shot up right there, and then the secondary one, it's not super worked over, so it's possible that this is the zone where we'd see more development, which, as we mentioned, is the reason why Joel is down there south. Speaking of, let's try to talk to Joel if we could. and let's just, we might have to get him on the phone and do this just to make sure that we have adequate communication back and forth with the TVU. John, would you give Joel a call, and we can do that just to make sure. Any other reports that you're seeing out there?
Ripley.
National Weather
House.
This is on 3?
Yeah, that's on 3, yes.
Okay, this is from Ripley.
Yep.
Okay.
Tree down on a house.
Now that's, again, we like to think mighty oak, things of that nature, you know, that big tree that's been there 100 years has roots that are like 100 years old, and that's not necessarily good. And so, as you'll note there, huge root ball, the wind catches it, knocks it over. Not the strongest tree, those roots were already less impressive than they probably should have been. Give me a moment here to talk to Joel for just a second. Hello? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Do you want to test? You want to test your shot? Make sure we're all good to go on that. We are on live stream right now. I want to make sure you can hear me and I can hear you. Is my thought. The audio communication end of it. I want to make sure that we have that figured out. No. Let's try doing the TVU. Let's see if you can hear. We can hear, like, if you can hear me through like my microphone. I just want to test it and see. Does that make sense? Like. Did you take it with you? Yeah, let's just try to use it, and we'll see. That's fine. No, you're good. I get it. It's worth a try. Do you want me to put you on speaker so folks at home can hear while we're doing this? Because I think you're going to confirm being out in the field what one of my considerations is here. So hold on a second. We're going to put Joel on so everyone can hear him. Our meteorologist Joel Young here. He's digging for a microphone at the moment so we can get his live audio up.
Testing.
Okay.
So basically, here's my thoughts. I mean, obviously, I'm in Oklahoma. Looked at some data. There are 2 storms back in the Delta. One near Lake Providence, Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a trajectory that would take it toward Highway 14, Kosciuszko, Louisville, Macon. There's another one near Sunflower and Greenwood that would take it on a track toward Grenada, Bruce, Houston, Oklahoma. That being said, there is, obviously better shear this way, better instability for what, instability there is. So, I mean, I think if we're going to see anything today, these are the 2 that we need to watch. Do you agree, Matt?
Yes. I mean, I think the one near Grenada is the one that concerns me the most. It's the combination of closest to the shear up north, the strong winds up that direction, and to the instability. And I think there's an instability. There's a fuel access for the folks at home that are listening as well. There's an instability access that is, sitting probably Houston, Aberdeen. You're kind of on the nose of that moisture. I don't know if you can tell from where you're at. But you're kind of on the nose of that where the dew points are just a little higher, and I feel like once that storm hits it, we're going to have about 45 minutes to really, really watch.
Okay, so where do we need to go from here? Looking at the trajectory, last I checked, and Matt, my radar stinks right now. I'm not able to get a whole lot of updates from radar scope. So I'm going to be depending on you a little bit more.
That's fine.
If you can just let John and Alan know that they might need to.
Well, then here's what my plan's going to be is we might do your we might make sure that you talk directly to Alan on that. Alan is on post right now, making sure he's pushing from the stream what we're talking about. And so
okay.
I think we're better off having him coordinate where you're at to a certain extent, and when we have something from you, going from there. So that, and making sure he's also on weather too, so he's making sure you don't die.
Here's my thought about that. Once it hits that axis, you said Houston and what else?
I mean, the problem is that there's no reporting stations between, Grenada. Yeah, go and take it.
Exactly where it is. It's just somewhere between one station and the other. So here's my question. Do we need to go, and I would like to, if this starts to produce a little early before we get to Oklahoma, I'd like to kind of catch it, not necessarily at the beginning, but I'd like to be able to stay on it a while.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
I don't want to just wait until it hits 45. So, that being said, let's say it goes through Grenada. Should we head south, hit 50 at West Point, head west, and be ready to head north if we have to, or head back?
I don't know that I would go West Point south. Like if you're going, I would go like you're going to head over to Houston and head toward Vardaman. If you're,
I can agree with that.
if you want to get,
I can agree with that.
it's still moving 50-ish. So that is still trackable at this point.
So let's head south. Let's go get on Highway 8. That'll go westbound to Houston, head toward Vardaman. And I think
50.
we'll at least be in a better position there.
I agree. Okay.
All right.
Let's and when you can, let's try to get your shot up and let's try to test that.
All right.
Before.
I'm turning it on now. I'm turning on the live pack. Turning on the camera.
Okay. And these batteries last a lot better than the old ones, so we can be slightly more liberal with using it.
Yeah. Do you want to stay on the phone so we can test this mic?
Go ahead and get it up, and then Austin will be watching things behind the scenes, and we can do that.
Cool. All
Okay.
right, thanks.
Okay. Talk to you in a minute. Bye. It's our meteorologist Joel Young, who is live in Okolona right now. We're trying to get in position for, if you probably picked it up, these storms that we have out here in the Delta, just in case they're in air that's a little less worked over, and that means that they have more of a potential to try to produce tornadoes than maybe some of these other showers that we have farther north. That's not to say there's more rotation ability because of the strong winds aloft up farther north, but there's less fuel. Things are slightly out of place, but there's going to be a point where you have just enough of that ability to rotate and just enough fuel in the middle, somewhere in a zone here from probably south of New Albany to maybe the southern fringe of the viewing area, where there's just enough moisture and just enough of that rotation. Once you get down south here, there's not quite as much of those, the rotation, try to keep this going, we just have so much of it that you might not need every little bit that you can have. So all of that jargon to say we're not done. They continue to track that thunderstorm, reporting high winds up there into Tennessee. That is this thunderstorm here that did produce the tornado touchdown when it was back in and around the Walnut and Faulkner area. There are a couple of reports there. Rapidly rotating wall. Hold on. Okay, so a report from a storm spotter, still working to confirm this, of a rapidly rotating wall cloud and perhaps a brief tornado touchdown north here of Pickwick Lake. Let's check. We are so far outside of the good wind area on this, it's going to be so difficult to really get a good look at it. We're just too high to really, really, really nail it down. Here's a picture from Bruce Beebe. I guess this would be the Alcorn County Airport. Oops, sorry, that's tower cam. Let's get this up here. This coming from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters. Definitely one that shows you can see the general turbulence you have out there. It's hard to say exactly looking at this for sure, but there certainly was some rotation, but there's a lot of precipitation that would make visibility difficult on this. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Okay. And you go and turn you down so I can hear him and you can hear me.
All right, testing, 1, 2.
Okay, can you hear me?
How does it? It sounds fine right here. Okay, excellent. Okay. All right, I'm going to turn it off now.
No. Keep it on. Keep it on. Keep it on.
Okay, that's good. All right, I'm going to go to the bathroom.
No, let's keep it. Oh, he's got to go to the bathroom. Okay. That's okay. We'll try to keep it on or hopefully get it back here in a minute so we can do a little. I want to do a more. I'll text Joel. Hold on. Text Joel Young when you get on the road here in a minute. I want to do a slightly more extensive test if we could, please. Sorry. I want to just make sure we can talk back and forth. He can hear me, that we can do a back and forth. Yeah, I want to make sure he can hear me, I can hear him. We can communicate back and forth as he's getting something. Okay. By the way, Joel is not driving himself. Okay. I guess I'll be back up here in a few minutes. We'll wait for that to come back up, and we'll get back to that. Joel has a couple of other people, trained spotters, with him as well. So we'll get that back, and that's fine. We'll get him back here in a few minutes. I'm not terribly worried. We still have some time before he is in a position that we need him, and he needs to probably use the facilities a little more than he needs to talk to us at the moment, because he might not get an opportunity after this for a while. So current time is 3:30 p.m. I'm meteorologist Matt Lopon, alongside our meteorologist Alan Matthew and John DeLucic. You heard Joel Young just a moment ago there, who's out in the field continuing to monitor these storms. We are at a time period here, and this is a lull between now and probably the next hour or so as we continue to wait for storms to strengthen. There was one back toward Grenada that will get stronger, but if you live in Tupelo and you're looking out, we're not done. Our chance still lies ahead with a couple of storms that admittedly are underwhelming at this point, but we do expect them to hit greater moisture. Is that enough to take them from underwhelming to producing a tornado, or is it enough to take them to just producing some straight line winds, which could be damaging? That's a question that we're going to have to answer in the next 30 to 45 minutes, as we should start to see some strengthening as this storm in particular moves into that thicker moisture, more fertile air to the east. So that's what we are going to be monitoring very, very closely. We've had multiple tornado touchdowns near the Tennessee state line for locations in Tippah and Alcorn counties. Reports coming in from law enforcement, as well as folks, let me take this back a 2-hour loop here so we can get it, as well as I believe we got to talk to the emergency manager at one point. Did we ever hear back from the emergency manager up in Tippah County? Okay. Could we double check Alcorn County just to make sure? Yep. Let's do that. And this might be hard for you to remember, but if you would if 20 minutes has gone by, and not now, it's not as much, but when we're on the air, if 20 minutes has gone by and we haven't given you a new county to call, give me, just yell at me and say, just yell at me, or talk to John or Alan. Are there any other counties we need to, call ahead on? Okay. Do that. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so as we mentioned, one, if not maybe two areas of rotation possibly producing tornadoes that we had up here close to the Faulkner and the Walnut area within the last hour or so. That thunderstorm, unconfirmed reports that it possibly produced a brief tornado up here closer to the Nixon area. As of the latest updates here, a possible tornado is the description of it. But that is outside the WTVA 9 News viewing area. We know we have a lot of folks that have are fortunate to have second homes up at Bay Springs Lake, but up at Pickwick Lake on the Tennessee River. No issues for those. That stayed north this time, and hopefully will stay up that direction. Looking at the storms back here farther west, there's clearly still some rotation with these. The fuel is extremely limited that these are working off of. The way to describe it would be these are, working off of fumes. For, I guess card nerds out there would be a way to describe it. In saying that, though, the dew point's still 63 of the latest update in Oxford. So it might be just a little more there than it initially looks. And Pontooc's mixed down a little, 67. This is just one of those things that we look at here behind the scenes to determine the potential that we have out of this. I'm going to go to look at the instability, the fuel for these thunderstorms, which is, I believe, to be overestimated by a considerable bit here on one of our storm tracking models that we're looking at. But it shows that we are kind of at the peak time frame, the next hour or so, for the fuel. As we go throughout the next couple of hours, we're going to lose the heating of the day. As that starts to happen, the fuel diminishes. There are two components to this fuel, moisture and heat. And some other things go into it, the way the atmosphere is stacked, but those are the two main things, moisture and heat. So you lose the heat, this goes down. You lose the moisture, this goes down. We're kind of at that peak combination of the two right now. It can still go down and be enough to produce a tornado, but certainly every minute that goes by, we start to lose a little bit more of this, hopefully, and that will help us out on at least fueling these thunderstorms. As we look, one of the other things I want to look at is I want to look specifically at that measure of moisture we were talking about a second ago there. And I wanted to check and see how it kind of aligns with what we have and it's similar. I can see a bubble of greater moisture there, which I think is probably misplaced. I think it's a little farther east, so hopefully that means our storms that were still right there, and our plume of moisture is a little bit out of phase. That's one of the things we're hoping for, at least at this point. I'm going to look at this will be our cloud tracker, and I'm going to pull up visible visible satellite. It's going to take a moment here to start loading this in because this data takes a while. And I want just the last hour. Let's make it just the last 30 minutes, in fact. Let's make that a slow loop. It might take this a minute to start coming in. Actually, I have one right behind it there. There we are. Oh, it's already loaded in. Okay, great. So let's look here, see if we're... So there is the hole in the clouds that I think Joel was kind of looking at there, moving toward the Okolona area, so that allows a little bit of heating. What I'm looking for, not just those holes in the clouds, I'm also looking for possibility to maybe see something feeding farther north here. There's sometimes these bands of moisture that feed northward. Good. It sounds like no reports of damage out of Alcorn County, so good. All the possibilities and maybes haven't yielded anything. I'll double check with Taylor here in a second, but Taylor has a voice that you can hear for a while. So I think that we're probably good there. Do we have one right there? Or am I just seeing the gravity waves going between the bottom there? What do y'all think?
I see a little bit of gravity waves.
I see the gravity waves.
Low-level clouds under that. That looks like a higher deck over the top.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, like... So those are still low level moisture there kind of feeding in. That might be, okay, so that might give us an idea of the edge of that moisture plume where it's up here, possibly in that. We've had a couple areas of lift, troughs as we call it behind the scenes. It's not super obvious, and hopefully that's a good sign. Sometimes when we have a super obvious area where we're feeding up, we know exactly, hey, once it hits there, it's going to go. So that's not super obvious looking at that, so that's good. Okay, so tornado watches continue for all locations in the WTVA 9 News viewing area at this moment. Those tornado watches for a variety of different times. I show everybody on this, and it's probably easier for me to show who's for when and who's involved by just showing you them all layered on top of one another. So I know there's a bunch of different blue lines here, so let's talk about what we have. The watch right here, west, that's in effect until 5 p.m. This watch farther east and the watch that's south, those are both in effect until 9 p.m. Now you look at this and you say, well, I'm down here in this far southeast corner of Noxubee County. Am I in this? Yeah. These are just the boxes that the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma displays. They then go in and the local weather service office defines the counties from there. Watches like this are still county-based, county-wide. If one part of the county is in it, the whole county's in it. Warnings, as we show you, where you have to take action right now, those are more localized, and as a result, they're typically, you can have someone in your county in a warning and you're not in one, or vice versa. Okay, so our meteorologist Joel Young is continuing to head as he drives down the road. Austin, can we talk to Joel for a moment here? And I don't know if you're getting ready for the show a little later or not. You can hear me? Well, while we wait on that information, Joel is out here driving along 32, heading back toward Van Vliet. He's going to kind of work his way down south of Hulka. Okay, so we're still waiting for his audio to come up. Is that what it is? Okay, he's probably Oh, no, I mean, we're behind the scenes. I just want to. Is he just trying to get it all set up? Is that what the deal is? Okay. Okay, yeah, I just want to test a talk back between the two of us. Typically, you've probably noticed at home we talk back and forth using cell phones. It's just more reliable. I know exactly who I'm talking to when we're talking to it. That's the reason we do it that way. We do have some equipment that allows us to do a little more cleanly behind the scenes, and so we're going to test out that functionality here in a minute. So I'm ready. By the way, if you get to talk to him, I can pop that back up when the time comes. So whenever he's ready, I'm ready on that. One west of Pine Flat, rotating wall cloud as of 39 after. That'd be right now. No. Hold on. That'd be... Nope. Nope, I'm pretty sure that's incorrect unless they're looking up north there from where they're at, because there's nothing in Tishomingo County. So I don't trust that one. So we'll have to remember that. Okay. Anything from Joel? Is he still? Yeah, let's talk back and forth with Joel if we could. Hey, Joel, can you hear me?
Hey, Matt. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Yes, I can.
Let's do it. Let's do a delay test if we could.
I'm good. Heading
Okay.
southbound on 45
Let's go.
right now.
5, 4, 3, 2,
Okay.
1, go.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Okay, about a 4-second delay there. Talking back and forth is going to be a little struggle. We'll try to keep answers short so that we can have that back and forth. I mean, obviously, unless you have, I mean, you know the situation that will be warrant different than that. Okay, so where exactly are you at right now?
At some point you feel like it's better, I am on southbound Highway 45, heading toward the Highway 8 exit or turnoff. That's 45 alternate, by the way. So I'm going to head westbound on 8 toward Houston, and then eventually toward Vardaman. We'll see where that storm is. At that point, I would expect it to be near Grenada, and we'll be near Vardaman, ready to intercept it and see what it does when it gets into Calhoun and Chickasaw counties.
Okay, that storm right now, Joel, just so you know, it is pretty much on Highway 8. The hail core portion of it, which isn't hail core, but the heavy rainfall portion of the forward flank downdraft is just now entering Grenada, and the rear flank part of it is inside the western part of Grenada County by about 4 or 5 miles. Okay, so we now have, so you know, hey Joel, give me
just... see if I can get radar up here on my phone here in a second. But...
Okay. Give me just a second here, Joel. The report coming in the last few moments here from our meteorologist, Alan Matthew. We'll go ahead and make sure we retweet this from Walnut Police Department, reporting that there has been damage to several buildings in Walnut. Please avoid the area so that responders can work to assess the damage and clear the streets. An incident command center has been established at the Walnut Fire Department. Please report any damage by calling 662-223-4115. So again, downtown Walnut has damage to several buildings. Please avoid the area so that responders can assess the damage to the streets. Alan, if you will take that, we probably want to make that, I guess, a full screen since that's a statement, or Liz will have an idea how we want to utilize that. So, as you heard a moment ago, damage in the Walnut area. We knew we had it around town. We did have reports of damage east of town, south of town, southwest of town. So at least a tornado that hit there, and possibly one of a couple of tornadoes that we had in Tippah County earlier on. Reports did not confirm damage in Alcorn County. John, I want to double check with you if we could, just to make sure of that. This storm did not produce damage in Alcorn County?
Last I heard, Taylor mentioned that she talked with the Sheriff's Department in Alcorn County. There was no damage reports from Alcorn County that we know of.
Okay, so no damage in Alcorn County that we know of. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Thank you, Taylor, and thanks to the Sheriff's Office there in Alcorn County. Thank you to all the law enforcement that work so hard away from their families on days like this to be the storm spotters. In so many cases, they are the ones, when we hear a report of a tornado coming in, they're the ones that give us those reports. There are other trained storm spotters. There's actually one of those classes next Monday, not not a couple days from now, Monday, but Monday after that in Tupelo for folks to want to become trained. Maybe not venture outside your house and spot, but at least know as it's coming toward your house, that's what that is. Even if you only call in a report one time in your life, that could be a report that saves someone else's life. And so I'm really big on making sure people get trained. If Joel could still hear me behind the scenes, Jackson, of course, also noting the upward trend on the storm in Grenada County. This is one that we have been watching, and so they're noting it and now issuing a severe thunderstorm warning for sections of Grenada County in effect until 4:30 p.m. Winds 60 miles per hour, 1-inch hail. They do not have the tornado possible tag on this. They're going with straight line winds and hail, obviously noting that it is showing signs of rotation and it is strengthening there, and so that being a couple of the concerns that they are watching. Okay, so let's track this now eastward at about 50 miles per hour. And would you double check here? Actually, give me a second here. I'll double check. The wind move east at 55 is what they're going on that. So it must have picked up a little bit of speed. That should hopefully give us some additional heads up. So Grenada, obviously the heavy rainfall part, and if there's hail, that's what's moving into your location. Right now, we're 0 minutes on that. Kincaid, 10 minutes. Big Creek, 26 minutes. Calhoun City, 32 minutes. And Vardaman, 41 minutes from now. So still some time there as that works its way eastward within the next hour. Our Joel Young will be intercepting this specific storm. That's what we're trying to get in the position of, is to intercept this. By the way, on 3, John, do you have chat logged in on your computer?
Chat to
National Weather Service?
Yes, I do.
Will you pop up the sounding that the folks just dropped in there from Starkville?
Okay.
We'll try to look at what the sounding is for some folks behind the scenes here. That is something that allows us to analyze what the atmosphere looks like above the surface. In certain cases, like this, folks they'll put out these weather balloons that they send up, give us a profile, an idea what the atmosphere looks like, and that information we then can know how much moisture is it, where is it put into place, how strong are the winds aloft, does this match what we would expect, and all that information allows us to know, hey, we're filling your TV time with important information versus, you know, this might not produce because this is wrong and that is wrong with looking at it. So we'll get that up for you here in just a couple of moments so that you can look at the very latest, and so we can kind of together look at that. Okay, we have that up, so let's look at the sounding here. Okay, so 72 over, is that 63? 72 over 63 in Starkville. So again, and this is something that even the Weather Center we try to ignore there. It gives us, okay, well, what kind of threats could you have with that? But takeaways I notice here, and unfortunately, I can't read it tall enough. How, I think, surface CAPE, it shows 861, mixed layer 582. 500 CAPE in Starkville. Now remember, this is where we thought that moisture plume was pretty close. You know, and it's going 63 and 500 CAPE. That is well below what HER is showing. HER is a model, when I show Storm Tracker, the one that has the red stripes on it, that's what we're looking at. It's this model HRRR, I believe it's High Resolution Rapid Refresh, is what I believe it stands for, if I remember right. Is that right? Okay. Give me a moment here. So that's important. It looks like there's still a considerable amount of shear. Those numbers there, which you may or may not be able to see at home, depending on whether you're watching live stream or Facebook Live, those numbers as well as these shear numbers are very high, as expected. So there's a lot of ability to get these storms to rotate even as far south as the Golden Triangle. There's more fuel down there. That's where our concern comes for the zone between Tupelo and, let's say, West Point, that maybe one of these storms hits just enough moisture, it has tons of shear, and now we produce a tornado. We've already done it with a more limited amount of fuel farther north, up in the Faulkner area, up near Walnut, and so that's at least a component here that we're definitely considering. Okay, so let's go ahead and minimize that. Here's that storm. Let's look at the wind mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar. Let's go a couple of different sites. We're going to look from Monroe County. Still rotation. Jackson. Rotation pretty close there to Grenada, but not over the top. When we get to about 90 miles per hour there, we feel pretty confident that it's producing a tornado. We don't have that. And let's look at Memphis. We should be able to see it from Memphis as well Let's see if we have a higher number. We do not. We're also looking very high up. We're not analyzing the lowest part. And obviously, if something happens, it would be down close to the ground. You know, rotation aloft only hurts you if you're an airplane. It doesn't mess with you if you're on the ground. So here's hoping. There is another storm, and we're spending a lot of time watching this one because it's going to kind of chug through the heart of the viewing area. There is another one back farther south here that also is going to track in that zone that eventually could take it towards Starkville, you know, as well as Ackerman, Belzona. More of an easterly track of this, but it also is kind of fluttered northeast a little bit. So we're going to assume it's still about that same 50, 55 miles per hour. I'm going to do what we call a squall track, simply because it will give you some specific times as opposed to relative time. Relative time makes sense, you know, 15, 20 minutes from now, you know, in the heart of a tornado, because, oh, okay, I have exactly 5 minutes to react. Unfortunately, this gives us specific time, but it gives us very little margin of error. So this has it into the west community about 4:36 there, Ware at 5:09, Ackerman 5:14, Sturgis by about 5:22, and Starkville by about 5:37 as it moves east at about 55 miles per hour. I'm going to see if I can get another one of those cone tracks, and we'll change this to 55 miles per hour. And this is going to cast a little bit wider net than we necessarily want. Oops, ignore that. Because I don't think there's that much error. So let me see if I can cut the scope of that back a little bit. Oh, track angle 34 degrees. Let's instead take the width of it down to, let's say, about 22 degrees. That might have cut it a little too much, but let's give it a try. There we go. I feel more confident about that. Okay, so there's some specific times on your screen. You'll notice we do have a few folks like Kilmichael or Vaden or Lexington that weren't in the first one, and Eupora and Mabin that weren't in the first one. And that gives us some flexibility on if this heads a little more east or a little more northeast. So definitely watching that. Our meteorologist now, Matthew, behind the scenes here.
Stan said he's in Silver City, which is very close to...
So Stan's on this one?
Yeah, he's somewhere very close to this.
Okay. Let's get Stan's live stream in the work browser. So we'll look at this as a couple browsers. One is the, you know, for on-air stuff browser. In the work browser, we'll get, you know, Stan's, and we'll put it all the way on the left up there so we can, you know, get to it pretty easily. That makes sense? So Stan, he should, if you go back up in there, he should have a link. He might have, can we find out how he's streaming? Well, I don't know if he is streaming at this point.
Let's see.
Okay, we'll find that out. Okay, so that means good. I was hoping Stan would be in position for that. So we do have storm chasers that are going to be on both of these storms as they become relevant. Our Stan Dorr with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters can try to follow this as it works its way east and northeast. You saw some of those times a moment ago there. I'm going to come back up here, Grenada County, which is under a severe thunderstorm warning. Strong straight line winds, obviously rotation. That's the reason why this warning has been issued. I feel like it's accelerated a little bit more east over the last couple of moments here. Some relative times there. Kincaid in 7 minutes, Grayport Crossing there in 10 minutes, Young's Community in 15, 23 minutes, Big Creek and Calhoun City within the next half hour. Heavy rainfall, perhaps some hail, some strong winds. It is rotating. At this point, though, we cannot confirm anything beyond some mid-level rotation. But we do expect it's heading into an environment that will make that more likely that that rotation strengthens. So while not producing a tornado now, you know, just cutting through the you-know-what, we expect that this one's probably going to produce tornado warnings at some point, and might be one that produces a tornado. And when we talked about that long-track tornado potential last night, this one and the one south are the ones we're concerned with that potential this afternoon. They are in the prime position for that to happen. And so that's why we have positioned our storm chasers on both of these. I'm going to do a wider track here. I'm going to do a longer track so that we can give some folks some additional heads up here as this continues to head toward the north and east. And so this is a long-range track here going for about an hour, more than an hour, as you can see, but 4:13 there for Big Creek, Calhoun City, 4:29. And you can see the rest of those times there on your screen. Houston at 4:39. That's about the place. I think Joel will probably be between Houston and Vardaman when he intercepts that storm. And then eventually Okolona, Shannon, Aberdeen, and Amory, as you can see, Monroe County there. Going to be by about 5:07 to 5:12, assuming it's holding at that 55 miles per hour. Our meteorologist Joel Young still en route on this. He is on Highway 8 now. as he works his way west into the storm. You can see the heavy precipitation with that. I believe that to be the thunderstorm. He is looking a pretty considerable distance away. I'm going to pop that back on kind of a smaller mode so we can do multiple things at once here. So he is looking the better part of about 50 miles away. So that's why it's just this gray. Storm chasers have to get pretty close to this, have a really good eye on where this is going, and so that's why Joel's going to get close. He is a trained spotter, a meteorologist. Another person, the person who's actually driving the car, is a trained spotter as well. And what we don't want to encourage you to do is try to be a junior storm spotter. You're just interested in what's happening, going out and about. We need to be making sure that we're making those tornado preparations just in case it becomes an issue farther east, because we do expect that to be a possibility going forward this afternoon. And that means, and we popped this up when we were on air a little bit ago, we're going to pop it up again. How should you prepare? We want to make sure that we keep that phone charged. I know you're watching on Facebook Live, you're watching on live stream right now. Clearly we're draining the battery on it. Make sure it's plugged in. That's from the live stream one right here. I have that. I have every device here on this desk plugged in, including my phone here that's on a wireless charger thing as well. So keep your phones, keep your devices charged in case you end up losing power. We could just have power outages from straight line winds on these today. Hard-soled shoes in case when you come out there's damage. You don't want want to be wearing flip-flops or something like that, or house shoes, and then you put your foot on, sorry, I was looking at something else behind the scenes, and you put your foot on a nail or something like that, and then you have to get a tetanus shot. Gather important documents, put those in your safe place, medication as well, just in case. If it's safe for you, it's safe for the things that make you tick. Helmets, you want those there as well. Stay steps away from that safe place, and of course have a reliable warning method. We talked about this a little bit before. We're reviewing some things here. We have a moment to do this before the next warning is issued. They rely on just one source. And that includes us, by the way. If you're watching us on live stream or the app there, hey, listen, that's related to data. Cell phone tower goes down, you have an issue. So data gets delayed sometimes, especially, everybody's on their phone typically when something bad's coming through. They're either trying to stream live or doing something else like that. And so as a result, just be very, very cautious and make sure you have multiple of these to keep you in that safe place. As we've mentioned a couple times, and clearly you're doing it here, we stream live at WTVA.com/live. We do get a lot of reports here on Facebook. Hi, Facebook. We get a lot of reports, and they're like, I have a hard time hearing this, or I have a hard time seeing that. That's the reason we do the live stream in the apps there, is because you get to see it exactly like you'd see it at home. And I believe that this streams live on Roku as well. Stan has video? Okay, yeah, we'll get that up. We'll get Stan's feed of that southern storm up here in a minute. Clearly, as you can tell from the folks behind the scenes here, John and Alan, we believe that our potential is beginning to ratchet up as this line moves in. And it's, by the way, not to say that we're not concerned with these storms farther north. This one has been around for quite a while up here toward Holly Springs, has definitely remained intact, and the longer these remain intact, clearly it's showing some signs of rotation. Until while we're down here looking south, these have been the ones that have produced to this point. So let's look closer at this just to make sure that this isn't trying to do that in a vulnerable area again. Let's go to the wind mode here from Memphis. Let's try and do it again. Okay, so I'm going to get a drink of water here for a moment. Austin. Oh, there you are. We, oh man, I hope I didn't get all of my tie. We might be getting ready to go back on here in a minute.
Okay. You give me an estimate.
I have a storm. They just issued a severe thunderstorm warning on. They did not go tornado possible on it, but it's in an area where there's definitely enough shear to get it going. So, I mean, it could be... Okay, and when we cut in, there's nothing wrong with going on NBC and just having everybody else catch up. That makes sense?
But I'm still going to give you the countdown.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, so severe thunderstorm warning issued on this thunderstorm here in effect until the time 4:45 p.m. It includes Ashland, but most importantly, or just as importantly, or very importantly, it includes folks such as Faulkner or Walnut. And we have some folks that are probably out here that are putting together the pieces after, in particular, Walnut. We had some damage to downtown there. So we'll get Stan's feed up here in a minute. So what we probably need to do is, if you know some folks up here and you know that they're out there working in this, let them know that there's another one coming. And you can see the times there. So within 22 minutes, let me get you a specific time. So when you're relaying this, you can do that. But for Faulkner and for Walnut, I'm going to try to get both in the track here. Faulkner about 4:17. Walnut about 4:21. So let's get on the phone with some folks up there. Let's let them know, hey, there's another one coming. At least at this point, it's not as strong, but we need to probably be, getting to a safer place just in case, or at least within a few steps of one. This is not producing a tornado. It is producing rotation, and that obviously is a concern we're going to have to watch. I'm going to look at the wind mode again before we go south and start checking on those. Again, kind of like earlier, there are two